Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this weekly AgWeather update brought to you by the Farm Credit Associations of North Carolina. Well, this morning as I was watching the sunrise here across the East Coast, a couple things kind of stood out to me. One, we're kind of tucked in between a couple of systems. This would be what was left of Tropical Storm Alex moving out to open ocean, and we have a pretty large complex of storms that's coming in right behind this through the Mid-South. Now, why we're watching this is because North and South Carolina and Virginia, we're going to kind of be on the tail end of, or the receiving end of a flow pattern that's going to come right through the midsection of the country and eventually bring systems toward us. But I got to be honest, last week's forecast verified quite well. I mean, just take a look at this. This is the last 72 hours of total accumulated precipitation. And if you remember at the in last week's video, we were really just going to be watching this corridor right in through here for the potential for picking up some heavier rain as that front came through. Part of which, that front's activity was going to keep Alex away from, the coast. We were watching that interaction. Well, there we go. We can see the precip. The models did a very good job on that. We wanted to see that precipitation come through because of the drought monitor. So again, we've been monitoring this region right along the coast here as being drier than average, and bringing in that recent precipitation overall was a very good thing. Now, before I transition into the long range, we need to see what we're going to be transitioning from, okay? So I'm going to show you now the jet stream level winds from the 1st of May until the beginning of this weekend. And what we're looking at here is the differences from normal. Now, this time of year, what I am constantly on the lookout for is actually features like this one up in the Bering Sea. That's a big blocking ridge. Now, the Bering Sea is quite a long ways away from North Carolina, which means I'm watching for blocking ridges between Iceland and Greenland, or Greenland and the Canadian archipelago, some sort of blocking feature in the North Atlantic, and we haven't seen it. In fact, all of the action's really been in the west with this large and extended piece of the Pacific jet stream. That's going to be an important component to the upcoming forecasts I'm going to share with you. But this is what the jet stream pattern's done. Now, again, big blocking ridges look something like this, and they almost always have low pressure south of them. So notice when you come over here, to this, the pattern's coming in like this quickly. It's been bounding up over a ridge here, but there's no block to it. The flow just comes around the next trough and over the next ridge, which has gone into Europe. And by the way, that's been the ridge that's kept the Iberian Peninsula and France so hot and dry at times during the month of May. But it stayed open. It stayed moving, okay? We watch for the blocking patterns to set up here. And so we ask ourselves, all right, with a given La Nina, which we still have, I mean, you can still see the colder ocean temperatures here. There's still colder water off the Baja of California getting up here into the Gulf of Alaska, although we've lately seen some warming in this area. We could still say that the base state of the atmosphere is behaving like La Nina. So that gets us asking questions. Do we have the risk of blocking up the Atlantic, which would therefore lead to increased risk of us having summer drought and heat issues? So let's get that question on the table and get it answered. First of all, how's this La Nina doing? It's still quite strong for early June. Southern Oscillation Index is a value of 18. So that tells me the trade winds are quite strong in this area. In fact, I can just look at them. See the blues here? This is today all the way through the solstice. And you just continue to see the blues in this area. Now, what does that mean? Well, this is called a Hofmüller diagram. It's a way of looking at space and time. And what we notice here is that the trade winds remain strong in this area going forward. So given that we have this La Nina still at the base of the pattern in the atmosphere, I can show you historically all of those La Nina events that were moderate in strength or even strong in strength, which I would consider this one somewhere in this category. I mean, you can see right now that they've labeled it as a moderate strength La Nina. So this is why we're watching. The models are attempting to take the ocean temperatures and moderate them some going through summer and into fall. Now that's normal. That's normal to see that happen for our summer and fall, but still keeping it on the cooler side of zero. That would mean weak La Nina or cool INSO-neutral conditions. So thinking about all of that, I just stitched together all of those years, July to September, that we had the moderate to strong La Ninas. And notice that they tend to give us better chances of being wetter than average along the East Coast. That's what the color bar there is. So there you go. And drier than average here. Now, it's not a slam dunk. It's not a perfect forecast. This just tells us where the risk is for either being too wet or too dry. So this is what we're watching. Now, all of these long-range models, I'm about to show you the latest updates from the European model, are going to use this as a jump off point when they do the forecasting, because the more dominant signal right now is the colder ocean temperatures. So let's go take a look at it. This is brand new, came out last night. This is the model's forecast for June ocean temperatures. Okay. As we play this forward, there's July, getting into August and September. So that just walked us right through summer. Couple things I notice. We still see warmer than average conditions along the East Coast and in the Gulf of Mexico. Most of the main development region maintains near normal ocean temperatures. Our La Nina, it's going to moderate, but it's going to shift south. And when we start to see these ingredients come together, it matches up with what NOAA says, what Colorado State University says, what all these major institutions that do long-range hurricane forecasting are saying, that we have a chance of being somewhere between 100 and 150% of average on tropical activity. I definitely buy that. That makes a lot of sense to me given this particular pattern. Now, you notice, though, that La Nina is sticking around in October, November, and December. It's south of the equator, which means it's got a bit different flavor, but it remains to stay in that area. So what we need to know is, what does this mean in the near term? So I'm going to zoom in on the United States here, get rid of ocean temperatures, and look at those other values, like precipitation. And this right here, there we go. That is now the July, August, September forecast. And again, do you see how the historical information, drier here, wetter there, is playing out in the long-range forecast? We're wetter along the coast, drier in the interior. And a big reason for that is we tend to keep the Bermuda high out over Bermuda, feeds moisture into the East Coast. We tend to have a more active hurricane season, and we get ridging in the mid part of the country. So this latest long-range update did not kind of eliminate the risk of drought on the primary corn and soybean belt, just as an example. Also note, southwestern monsoon tends to be quite strong in this particular setup. And on the temperature side of it, our summer temperatures, July, August, and September, we do carry a warm bias, okay, in the model, but the warmest conditions are in the plains back up to Montana, southern Alberta, and Saskatchewan. So that pattern's been very consistent in the long-range models for a while. Now, in the next 10 days or so, we're going to get new updates from the other global models. The Europeans always out first. So that's where we're going to use this and compare it to others very soon. So that's it. That's the main thing I'm seeing at this particular point. Okay, I'll kind of summarize there for you. Right now, though, okay, ahead of this risk, this is where we stand. Now, if you watch my daily content or you see my other videos, you know that I've been showing this a lot lately. I really, really like this. It is a simple diagram, see it down here, where the forecast is shown into these colored symbols. You've got four options: jet extension, jet retraction, equator shift, or poleward shift. It's just telling me where the Pacific jet is. Now, what we get concerned about, especially in the Midwest, okay, is if the Pacific jet, which is what we're talking about here, shifts north or retracts back to Japan. These two categories over here tend to increase our drought risk. And that is typical of a La Nina to see that occurring. So we're going to watch for it. Now, right now, this is what the jet stream is going to look like, well, from now all the way to the end of the week. It is extended. It's long. It goes from the Himalayas all the way to Oregon, then across the United States, even clear to England. I mean, that's how long it is. You see, a ridge is building over the mountains in the west. We have a trough that's coming into the Great Lakes in east, which means we're going to see less of a chance over the next 5 to 7 days of seeing extreme heat. Instead, we're probably going to see more precipitation, at least a couple of chances for it. In fact, let's just take a look at that. This is your next 7 days of precipitation. Now, what I want you to see here is that because of that Pacific jet and the trough that's dipping in here, we're going to talk about a couple of chances of rainfall. But bigger picture, where we're really concerned about drought developing later in the season into the midsection of the country, this rain is really going to push back that drought risk. That's a main takeaway point here. But take a look at this. As I play this forward out into the middle of the month, let's get out there to the 17th. Let's just stop it there. Do you start to see now where we have a ridge developing north of Hawaii, a ridge developing north of Texas, and another weaker ridge developing out here to the east of Bermuda? We call that the triple ridge pattern. 1, 2, and 3. Now, if that gets established and stays established going into summer, this particular forecast, where you saw the really dry conditions showing up in the midsection of the country for summer, that will verify. That's exactly what we'll get out of this particular pattern. So we need to see if this is a robust signal in the models, because it would represent the first pattern change over about 45 to even up to 60-day time period. So I'll watch that carefully. Now, in the meantime, we're still here. All right, so let's take a look at how we get here over the next 7 days. Severe weather risk is to our west today. Tomorrow, we start to see better chances of storms coming in Tuesday into Wednesday. In fact, on Wednesday, we do have the risk of some thunderstorms, but nothing severe early this week. What happens by Wednesday is, you see this? This is the surface winds on Wednesday. That is like what's left of Alex, all sheared apart. But some of the flows coming in like this off the Atlantic, and it's going to meet a front that's right here. I know it's really weak and not very easy to see, but I'll show you how that starts to introduce our chance for some storms by going to the high-res NAM model here. So let's start this off noon today on Monday and play forward. Some scattered storms over the Appalachian Mountains through this evening. Then as we play into Tuesday morning, Tuesday midday, into Tuesday evening. Did you see it? See the storms trying to come in here? So that's what we're seeing Tuesday, Wednesday. And as we play it forward, the broader front tries to get over us on Wednesday. It's right here, actually. It's going to start to move its way toward us. But you can see what's behind it, so that's going to be our next round. To see that one, though, I got to flip over to the European model, which runs out 10 days, versus the NAM, which only runs out 60 hours. So here is Tuesday morning, afternoon, and evening. So you can start to see the storms coming in from the east here and the west over the Appalachian Mountains. And then on Wednesday, that front swipes through. So there's your chance of storms on Wednesday night. Better chance on Wednesday night than Tuesday, it looks like. That front clears by 7 a.m. Thursday. We see chances for storms right here on Thursday night. And then as we play through into the weekend, see the next system coming through. That's Friday night, Friday overnight, and Saturday morning. So that's our next chance at grabbing some precipitation as we look out here over the next 7 days or so. We add it all up, it looks something like this. So Tuesday, there's our chance at kind of our first round of chance of storms here. There will be some scattered storms here on Tuesday night. But then Wednesday's the first push of the first front. Second one comes in there on Friday and Saturday, see it? And we round out the next week or so. There'll be a couple of places that pick up an inch, maybe an inch and a half of precipitation. Could be some drier area right over in this region. In fact, maybe an easier way to see that would be to have me show you this figure. It is the next 10 days chance of getting at least an inch of rain. So you see, the farther east you go, the better the chances are, up to about an 80 to 90% chance here. Whereas get back here to the west in this part of South Carolina, North Carolina, up toward the Appalachian Mountains, and in them, the chances are lower. That's a good way to kind of summarize this pattern. But as we discussed, the pattern going into week 2 gives us the triple ridge. You see it? And that's why, looking out that far, we now see running over that ridge the storms here. So our temperatures warm up and we likely dry out a little bit in this particular pattern, okay? We could still see some isolated storms in this, but overall, no big systems rolling through, which is why it shows up drier. On the temperature side of this, let's talk about that before we do one last long-range outlook here. From April 1 through June the 4th, which is the last day we have the data available to us, we can see we're generally running here across North Carolina a surplus in GDUs, okay? We're way below average in the central and western Corn Belt, the northwestern Corn Belt, getting all the way to the northwestern United States. In fact, parts of the Columbia Basin are off by about 200 to 250 GDUs right now. What are the temperatures doing? Well, let's go have a quick look. Oops, where we go. Today, we got these highs in the mid-80s, all right? The heats in Texas, they're going to be seeing triple-digit heat here. There's heat advisories and heat warnings out. Heat's also going to California. So while our temperatures stay in the mid-80s to 90s, low 90s, triple digits here and triple digits in the west. So that's Wednesday, getting into Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Very steady temperatures until we get into the better chance of rain Friday night, getting into Saturday. And then as we go into Sunday, we still have some cooler air that's in place as the broader ridge opens over the Rocky Mountains. Now take a look at the temperature pattern day 5 through 10. We're closer to normal while the heat stays in Texas to California, cooler around the Great Lakes. Day 10 through 15, though, remember when the ridge begins to open, remember that triple ridge pattern? We go over toward more mild conditions. All right? One last thing to show you today. This is the outlook from a different model run by the European Center, okay? So they have their seasonal model, which we looked at the beginning. We then looked at their 10-day forecast, which is the one that I show you every 6 hours, and this is called their weeklies. Now, just take note, while they don't show a strong signal for us, the midsection of the country from June 15 to July 16 is showing up with the drier conditions already. That would be an indication of that triple ridge. And you can also see what it's doing to the temperature pattern, okay? Much more mild weather here compared to average in this region, which is why we're going to be watching it carefully. It's not this week. It gets going after this week, and I think it could pose some risk to some of our bigger commodity markets like corn, soybeans, wheat, and other things. So let's watch it together. I'll report back to you next Monday. Have a good one. Thank you.